Welcome back to Son of a Preacher Man. Soapman is in the house. 2 episodes ago, I started my series on the biblical Abraham, and I began to tell the story that most Christians know. Abraham was the son of Terah. He lived to be 175 years old. He left the city-state of Ur when he was 75 years old. He married his half-sister Sarah. He famously had his son Isaac, and so on and so forth. Abraham's name has been famous for thousands of years. That's no slip of the tongue. Thousands. Experts, historians, archaeologists, men with titles, as I like to call them, have been searching for evidence of Abraham for hundreds of those thousands of years. Men with a lot more money and resources than I've ever had. They've all come up empty-handed, and their searches have been in vain. I'd like to make an announcement to my few subscribers and the few of you watching at home. Starting this episode, I'm going to walk you through how I found evidence of the biblical Abraham in the historical record. I'm going to show you what the experts either didn't understand or overlooked. However, let me provide a warning. This is going to be one roller coaster of a ride. There will be times that you doubt me. There will be times that you are suspicious. There will be times that you are confused. But I promise you that if you stick with me and let me do this my way, stick with me for the next 5 or 6 episodes, and you will not only understand, but you will believe me. And I'm going to show you what I believe is the only existing evidence of Abraham. And you'll also understand why no one was able to find him before. Okay, so let's not waste any time. Let's just jump right off into it. I don't know if you saw my series on Nimrod, but early on in that series, I told you that if you couldn't find an ancient or historical figure by name, to look for them by an event that they were associated with. We linked Nimrod, the Bible links Nimrod to the building of the Tower of Babel. And so the historians were able to link the Sumerian ruler Enmerkar to the building of the Tower of Babel and to the establishment of writing, and subsequently link that back to Nimrod. Nimrod equals Enmerkar. I hope that didn't confuse you. So if you can't find someone you're looking for by name, look for an event that they may have been associated with. Maybe they participated in a war. Maybe that war was significant enough that somebody wrote about it. Maybe they married some famous queen or the daughter of some famous king. Maybe it was significant enough that someone wrote about it. Or maybe they participated in the building of a structure or a temple. Maybe it was important enough that someone wrote about it. Now, there's no use in trying to find Abraham by name. The experts have exhausted that avenue and come up short. I didn't waste my time looking for Abraham by name in the historical records. But with a rich history such as Abraham has, there are plenty of events to potentially connect him to and so find him. There's the birth of Abraham's son Isaac. Abraham loved his son Isaac, and he was 100 years old when he had him. This was a pretty big deal to Abraham. It was an extraordinary event according to the Bible. Maybe it was important enough that someone wrote about it. Remember the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? Remember how God burned the sinful cities of Sodom and Gomorrah down to the ground? It was a traumatic event. A lot of people died. A lot of people would have talked about it and remembered it. And it happened in Abraham's lifetime. A lot of people would have saw this from afar off, such as Abraham did. Abraham saw the smoke rising from Sodom and Gomorrah, and a lot of other people around the world did also. This would have shook people for generations. They would have told their kids about it and their grandkids. They would have never forgot it. it would have been tattooed on their brains forever. Maybe it was important enough that someone wrote about it. The event that I chose was Abraham's fight with Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. This fight between Abraham and Chedorlaomer, on its surface, appears to mirror the epic fight between David and Goliath, in that it seems lopsided in favor of Chedorlaomer. I mean, Chedorlaomer was the king of Elam. He was the king of the Elamite people. He had a very large army. He had other kings that served as his vassals. Whereas Abraham, it appears, is all by his lonesome with just his household and a good Lord looking out from above. Now, if you've seen my series on David and Goliath, you know that I think Goliath didn't stand a chance. Goliath may have been physically superior, but David was mentally superior. And the end result proves what I'm saying. Goliath didn't last very long against David. Goliath was all brawn and no brains, whereas David was a savant. Okay, so who was Chedorlaomer? Well, first of all, Chedorlaomer isn't the name of an individual. It's more like a title, like king or duke or pharaoh. So Chedorlaomer is the title of a ruler of Elam. Elam was a nation that neighbored the nation of Sumer. And we've talked about the land of Sumer and the Sumerian people quite a bit on this channel. Now, the land of Sumer and the land of Elam were contemporaries and naturally in constant competition with one another. And these fights between the two usually ended up with Elam on the receiving end. Not so during the reign of Chedorlaomer. His reign was one of the few periods where the Elamites had the strong hand and were the ones dishing it out to the Sumerians. Okay, so let's see what the Bible says about Chedorlaomer. Genesis chapter 14 verses 1 through 6 reads, "And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar." When the Bible says Shinar, it's talking about the land of Sumer. So it says, "And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of nations, that these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. All these were joined together in the vale of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer, and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims in Ashtaroth and Karnaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and the Emims in Shavach Kiriathim, and the Horites in their Mount Seir, unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there for you. Please allow the Soapman to explain. What the Bible is essentially saying is that there are 5 kings located around the Salt Sea or near the Salt Sea. The Salt Sea is the Dead Sea. It's the only body of water that you see here in this slide that I have for you. If you see my arrow here, okay. These 5 kings are strategically nestled between the Salt Sea and the mountains. You got the Dead Sea on one side of them and a mountain range on the other side. And this is a strategic defensive position. It is why these settlements and kingdoms were built in this spot. It is for the natural defenses provided by the natural terrain. Okay, so these 5 kings located around the Dead Sea, they serve as vassal states to Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. What that means is they pay Chedorlaomer an annual sum, and in exchange, he won't come invade their city and burn it down to the ground and take what he wants. This is pretty common throughout the ancient world, and I'm afraid to say, even up into modern times. So the Bible says for 12 years, these 5 kings serve Chedorlaomer, and they pay tribute to him, and they pay him not to come F them up. But in the 13th year, they say, I can't do it no more. They say, I can't pay you no more. You can't keep taking our money. You can't keep extorting us. We probably, they probably was setting a little money to the side, you know what I'm saying, to build up an army and build up some type of defense to where they wouldn't have to get extorted by this far eastern king. They was tired of paying them. They couldn't pay it no more. The rent was too high. They couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford to pay it no more. 12 years they served Chedorlaomer. And in the 13th year, they said, I can't do it no more. So this slide is meant to give you the proximity between Chedorlaomer and the 3 kings with him and the 5 kings that serve him. So Chedorlaomer is over here by the Tigris and Euphrates River, and him and his kings are represented in red. And the 5 kings near the Salt Sea are represented over here in green. So there's a vast desert between Chedorlaomer and these delinquent, rebellious kings that he got to deal with. Chedorlaomer ain't playing. Chedorlaomer ain't playing. He want his Fetty Wap. He want his cheddar. He want his Asagio. And he means to get it. So Chedorlaomer calls his banners Tidal, the king of nations, Arioch, the king of Elasar, and Amraphel, the king of Shinar. 4 kings against 5. Now we know where Shinar is. It's the land of Sumer. But we don't know where these other 2 kings come from. It's probably safe to say that they were in the general area, or at least on the route that Chedorlaomer had to take to get to the land of Canaan. Chedorlaomer calls his banners. He's got 3 kings with him. That's 4 altogether, and they go to make war with the 5 kings of the Salt Sea in what is known as the Battle of Siddim. So I want you to look at this slide of the route that Chedorlaomer takes. It's the only route that he can take because there's a vast desert that lies between he and his target. And to go across that desert would be insanity. You would lose half your troops on the way there. This route from southern Mesopotamia to the land of Canaan is a known and well-traveled route. It's the same route that Abraham took when he traveled from southern Mesopotamia to the land of Canaan. Everyone knows that Chedorlaomer took this route, and the 5 kings of the Vale also knew that Chedorlaomer were coming from this direction. Chedorlaomer must take this route to get to the land of Canaan. And so he must start out going through the land of Shinar. Please remember this. It is important because this is how we gonna find Abraham. When Chedorlaomer, whoever he is, when he comes across to invade and fight with these 5 kings of the Vale, he starts by leaving Elam and he comes through the land of Sumer, because the land of Sumer is where that road starts. He comes up and across the same way Abraham did when he took this route, and he enters into the northern area of the land of Canaan. Now, look over here to this blown up map in your bottom left-hand corner. You'll see when Chedorlaomer comes, he does not directly attack the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. You see, look at this big map. You see this, he comes in and he makes this big loop. He comes in, he travels down south, and then he makes a big loop and comes back up. But please be patient with me and allow me to explain to you why he does this. Chedorlaomer, when he leaves Elam, he comes through the land of Sumer, he travels up and around, and when he gets to his target area, instead of attacking Sodom directly, he comes down a little ways right of the Dead Sea and he makes a big looping circle. Chedorlaomer does this because he has no choice. I don't know if you can see between the green, this strip of brown and gray. Well, that's a mountain range. And Chedorlaomer cannot just cross over this mountain range with this large army. It would be the same as crossing through that desert. He would lose most of his troops. It's not smart. Look right here. If you can see my arrow, it's going to get smaller. Do you see these two green lines? What the map is trying to show you is that this is a well-known crossing point through the mountains. Chedorlaomer's not going to take this direction either. He's not going to take this route either because he knows there's a big fat ambush and trap waiting there for him. So what he does is he travels right along the spine of this mountain range, and he comes way down south here to where he can pass with his large army, to where he and his large army can pass safely and uninhibited by the terrain. And once they can do that, they make a big looping circle and they come back up and around the Dead Sea. Here's the problem. We don't know exactly where the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were. And so we don't know exactly how Chedorlaomer attacked some cities that we don't even know exactly where they were. So we can't know exactly how Chedorlaomer attacked them. This is the perfect map of Chedorlaomer's route. You see, it just gives you a general idea of the route that he took based upon the information that the Bible gives us. So you see the blue arrow just comes down. It follows the spine of this mountain range. It comes down and around. It comes back up. It comes past the Dead Sea. It goes up and then out. This is why this is the perfect map, because it doesn't show Chedorlaomer attacking anywhere along the Dead Sea, because we don't know where Sodom and Gomorrah were. We don't know if he came up here from the top. We don't know if he came around the top or north end of the Dead Sea, or if he came down around the bottom of the Dead Sea. We just don't know. But the Soapman does know, and I'm going to explain it to you in a couple episodes. But let me end this episode with this, because we can't just skip over this, and I have to apologize beforehand about this, because I'm going to have to do my whole next episode on what Chedorlaomer does when he first gets to the land of Canaan. Okay, let's go back to what the Bible says for a minute. It says 12 years they served Chedorlaomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Chedorlaomer and the kings that were with him, and smote the Rephaims in Ashtaroth, and Karnaim, and the Zuzims in Ham, and Emims in Shavah-Kiriathaim, and the Horites in their Mount Seir, unto El Paran, which is by the wilderness. I want you to pay close attention to this slide that I've put up here for you. Now, remember that route that I said Chedorlaomer took in the previous slide, and it was in blue? Okay, well, this one's in orange, and it's kind of harder to see, but you still see this string of arrows going down the spine of this mountain range and making this loop. All the maps are in agreement about the general route that Chedorlaomer took. Now, the Bible says when Chedorlaomer gets to the land of Canaan, he starts attacking everybody but the 5 kings of the Vale. He's attacking, the Bible says, the Rephaim. You see this name up here, Rephaim. And then it says he attacks the Zuzim, and you see the name Zuzim. And it says he attacks the Emim, and you see down here the name Emim. And it says he attacks the Horites in their Mount Seir, and you see down here are the Horites, and all these names are right along this route that Chedorlaomer takes. So the Bible gives the names of several tribes that Chedorlaomer immediately attacks when he enters the land of Canaan. The Rephaim, the Zamzums, the Emims, and the Horites. And the reason that I have to make an entire separate issue about this event is because these are the names of giant tribes. Chedorlaomer enters into what was known in ancient times as the land of giants. Unless you understand what you're reading, you won't know that these names that the Bible are listing are the names of giant tribes. And I mean giant in every sense of the word. Chedorlaomer comes through and just mops the floor with these tribes of giants. In my next episode, I'll explain how and why he was able to pull this off, and explain the larger picture of why giants were even in this area and not only thriving, but dominating. I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Son of a Preacher Man. If you enjoy this type of content, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you got any compliments, complaints, or insults, please also leave them in the comments section. If you got any topics you'd like me to discuss or questions you'd like answered, please also leave them in the comments section. I'll see you next time. Same soap time, same soap channel. Soapman out.